You just logged into your brokerage account, and for the first time, the balance at the top of the screen actually says $2 million. 30 years of doing everything right. Maxing out the 401k, driving the older car, saying no to the vacation, and you finally hit the number. And instead of relief, you just sat there staring at the screen, doing math in your head about what happens if the market drops 20% next year, or a health issue wipes out half of it. If you've hit this number and you're more nervous about spending than you were with half this amount in the account, that's not random. There's a specific reason it works this way, and it has nothing to do with how much you've saved. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly why 2 million changes the game the day you retire and what to actually do about it. It comes down to what you've spent your whole adult life practicing. For 30 years, you've been trying to grow the account. Every habit, every decision, every dollar, all of it was in service of making the number go up. Then the day you retire, the job flips completely. You're suddenly supposed to spend from it. Nobody trains you for that part. Here's how lopsided this actually is. The Federal Reserve's data on retirement savings puts the median balance for households in their late 60s and early 70s at around $185,000. So at $2 million, you're statistically way ahead of almost everyone. And yet high net worth retirees routinely report more spending anxiety than people with less saved because the dollar amounts are just bigger. A 10% drop on $50,000 is $5,000. A 10% drop on $2 million is $200,000 gone in a month, which is exactly the kind of math that makes a careful, disciplined person feel like they're failing, even when they're not. And weirdly, the math says you're fine. The fear isn't actually coming from the numbers. It's coming from a habit you built over 30 years and never had a reason to question, until now. You go to a nice restaurant, you're about to pay the bill, and you hesitate. You think about what that money could be worth in 20 years if it stayed invested instead. That's the accumulation mindset talking. It's the exact habit that got you to 2 million, and in retirement, that same voice becomes a trap. When you were working, every dollar you spent was a dollar that stopped compounding. But your money has already done its job now. Its only job left is to fund your life. Most people never get that memo. They keep playing defense, living off the interest, never touching the principal, spending way less than they could actually afford. And it's not that people run out of money. Most don't. Plenty of people die with the bulk of their account still sitting there because they never consciously decided the rules had changed. The skills that built the 2 million are not the skills you need for what comes next. And that's something you have to decide on purpose. Nobody decides it for you. That fear of overspending is one half of the problem. The other half isn't about how much you spend. It's about timing. And whether the market decides to misbehave at exactly the wrong moment. When you were in your 40s, a market drop felt like a sale. You kept contributing and bought more shares on the cheap. The day you retire, that same drop feels like a gut punch because you're not adding money anymore. You're pulling it out of a shrinking account. This is called sequence of returns risk. And the risk isn't that the market falls. The risk is that it falls right when you start depending on the money. Here's what that actually does to $2 million. Withdraw $80,000 a year, have the market drop 10% in year 1 and 5% in year 2. Then average 8% for the rest of a 30-year retirement. You could end up with somewhere around $3 to $4 million. Run the exact same average returns in the opposite order. Good years first, bad years at the very end. And you could end up with somewhere around $5 million to $6 million. Same average return, a difference of several million dollars, just because of when the bad years landed. You don't fix that by hiding in cash. You fix it with a buffer. 2 years of living expenses sitting in cash or short-term bonds means a crash in year 1 doesn't touch you. You spend the cash, your stock portfolio gets time to recover, and you're never forced to sell at the bottom. A cash buffer protects you from a bad market. It doesn't protect you from the IRS. And this is the part almost nobody accounts for when they hit 2 million, because it has nothing to do with the stock market. Most of that 2 million is probably sitting in a traditional 401k or IRA. Pre-tax money. You're looking at it and seeing $2 million. The IRS is looking at it and seeing a percentage they haven't collected yet. At age 73, the government makes that collection happen whether you need the cash or not. They're called required minimum distributions, and they force you to pull money out and pay taxes on it on their schedule, not yours. If those forced withdrawals push your taxable income too high, they can also trigger IRMAA, a surcharge on your Medicare premiums. So you end up paying more for healthcare because the government made you take a distribution you never asked for. The way around that is doing Roth conversions now, while you're still working or in the early lower income years of retirement. Paying the tax at a rate you know today, instead of whatever rate the IRS hands you later. You're not getting out of the tax bill either way. You're just choosing whether you pick the year or the IRS does. A buffer fixes the market problem. A conversion plan fixes the tax problem. But there's a third thing working against you that has nothing to do with either one. It's the question of what the money is actually for. The reason this causes anxiety is surprisingly simple. Most people spend decades figuring out how to save the money, and almost no time figuring out what the money is actually supposed to do for them. During your working years, the purpose is obvious. Earn, save, repeat. Retirement removes that structure overnight. If you haven't replaced it with something specific, every spending decision starts to feel questionable. Should you take the trip? Upgrade the house? Help the kids? Keep investing instead? When the money doesn't have a clear purpose, the safest answer always feels like doing nothing. Once you know what the money is for, the next question is mechanical. How much do you actually let yourself spend in a given year, especially the year the market has a bad one? Say the market drops 10% 6 months after you retire. Your gut says cancel the trip, cancel everything. That's exactly the moment a guardrail system is built for. You set an upper and lower boundary around your portfolio's value. Say your baseline is $2 million. Portfolio grows to $2.3 million in a good year. You've crossed the upper guardrail, and that's your signal to spend more. Book the better flight, help the kids out, whatever it is. Portfolio drops to $1.7 million. You've hit the lower guardrail, and that's your signal to trim the discretionary stuff for the year. Skip the renovation, stick to the baseline budget. No panic selling either way. That's the whole point of the system. It takes the decision out of your hands on the day you're least equipped to make it well. Up market, it's safe to spend more. Down market, you know exactly how much to pull back. You're not guessing anymore, and you're not doing the math at 3 in the morning. So what does that actually look like to set up starting this week? 4 things. First, build a buffer. Open a high-yield savings account or buy some short-term treasuries and move 24 months of your basic living expenses into it. That's what protects you from sequence of returns risks. And once it's funded, the rest of your portfolio is free to take the long-term growth risk it should be taking, because your near-term bills are already covered. Second, look at your tax buckets. How much is sitting in traditional accounts versus Roth? If traditional is the much bigger pile, you will want to coordinate with your certified fee-only financial advisor and your CPA to build a safe 5-year conversion plan. Don't guess at it. Get the actual numbers. What you'll owe, what it does to your Medicare premiums, on paper. It'll feel uncomfortable to look at that tax bill on purpose. It's still better than having the government decide it for you at 73. Third, write down the job description for your money. Take 10 minutes today to write down exactly what this money is supposed to buy you in retirement. Whether that's travel, helping family, or just daily freedom. Give the dollars a purpose so spending doesn't feel like losing. Fourth, set your guardrails. Look at your current portfolio value and calculate your upper and lower bounds, usually plus or minus 10%. Write them down. When the market inevitably dips, you won't have to guess what to do. You'll just follow the rules you already set. Once those 4 things are in place, the spreadsheet stops being the scary part. What's left is just deciding how you want to live. $2 million isn't the finish line. It's the starting line for a completely different game. One where the goal isn't how high you can get the number, it's how fully you use it. You spent decades being careful and delaying things. You built the right to stop. So here's the question. If you hit your number tomorrow, what's the first thing you'd actually give yourself permission to do that you've been putting off? Tell me in the comments. And if this was useful, subscribe. We'll keep breaking down the real math behind retirement. For 30 years, your job was to build the portfolio. Retirement is when the portfolio starts working for you. The skills that got you to 2 million did their job. Now it's time to learn the skills that let you enjoy it.